This is a fair question. They're asking, why would a loving father put his children through the last great tribulation? And the answer is that we need to understand this in the context of something called the Great Controversy. The Bible tells us how and why Lucifer fell in three main chapters of the Bible: Isaiah 14, Ezekiel 28, and Revelation 12. And it's always been about God's character. Satan has been slandering God's character ever since Satan's rebellion began. And the Great Tribulation is like God's closing argument. See, essentially, this controversy between Christ and Satan is one long 6,000-year-long legal battle. Understand also, Nahum 1:9 says sin will never rise again. Revelation 21:4 says all of these things, destruction, death, sin, none of that's ever going to happen again. But in order for that to happen, God has to do things in a certain way. Ezekiel 36, starting in about verse 23 in the RSV, the Bible tells us this is about the vindication of God's character. In order for sin to never rise again, God's character has to become completely blameless. And one of Satan's original charges is that God is a tyrant and basically his law is impossible to be obeyed. And the last great tribulation is the final, again, closing argument where God is going to show that yes, his law can be obeyed, that yes, we can live completely victorious over sin through the grace and power of Christ, of course. And in addition to that, Isaiah 48:10 describes how God refines his people as if they were precious metals in a furnace. So for God, it's the final step in the vindication of his character before the universe. And for us, it's the final step in our purification, the final step in our refining before we're ready for heaven. The final tribulation completely unmasks Satan as being the dictator he is, and it fully displays God as being the loving God he is. And for those who will say, but the church is not appointed to wrath, yeah, you're right. But never once does the Bible define the Great Tribulation as being the wrath of God. It defines the 7 last plagues as being the wrath of God in Revelation 15. In Revelation 14, it defines the lake of fire as being the wrath of God. But never once does it define the tribulation as being such. See, when this first phase of the judgment that's going on right now, what we call the pre-Advent judgment, you can find a study on it on my website under free study section. When that's over, then the Great Tribulation begins. What about you, my friends? Do you want to be found faithful through the last Great Tribulation? Do you want God to vindicate his character through you? Let me know in the comments.